guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing a very casual get ready with me / Q&A health update sort of video. It's been so many months since I've last updated you guys on different health things. That's the main thing that we're going to be talking about today because a lot has happened in the last 6 months or so. But I also just wanted to sit down and chat with you guys. We haven't chatted in so long. So this week's video is going to be a little bit different than my usual content. I usually do DIY, home decor, and homemaking sort of content on my channel if you're new. So if that interests you, make sure you subscribe. But since I am recovering from surgery right now and just kind of trying to take things easy and want something really easy to film, quite honestly, I thought that this would be a really good way to chat with you guys and also get a video made for you. So, and I know by the time this video goes up, the little question box on Instagram isn't going to be open anymore, but if you do have any questions, you can leave them down below and I'll try to respond in the comments. But without further ado, I think we're going to go ahead, we're going to get started, and let's just have a little chill get ready sesh today. All right, first I want to pull back my hair because I don't want to get any makeup in it. I've been having do you see these little roots just peeking through? I don't know if that's just like my colic, because I have like a colic right here, or if I'm getting like some new hair growth. I hope it's the second one. So all morning I've just been like, I'll just look in the mirror and I just have like these little like ram horns. Anyway, alright, I think that'll work. I need a haircut so bad. My ends are just like, they're terrible. So for this get ready with me, I don't think I'm going to go through and actually like tell you like what I'm doing, like a tutorial with like all the products I'm using. So we'll try to link some things down below. I'm not a guru or anything like that. This is just how I do my makeup every day, if I do it every day. I think this is actually the first time I'm wearing it this week, but I'll try to sort of mention things as I go, but everything will be in the description if you really want to try anything for yourself. All right, so I guess first we'll start with the sort of update portion of this video. If you are new, I have had endometriosis for what we think is probably like 4.5 years. I say we think because there are kind of like a bunch of things that were sort of causing my health problems. I got my gallbladder out. I have like an abdominal dysfunction, and I also have endometriosis. This past July, which is actually I think the last time I sat down and talked with you guys, is when we found out I had endometriosis and I got it removed. At least that's what I thought. So basically since then, I had that surgery, I think, yeah, that was July 11th. So it was quite a while ago, and they said that I was supposed to be like feeling better within 2 to 3 weeks or so. Like it wasn't supposed to be like super long. It may even have been less than that. Basically the 2 weeks or so go by, I'm still not feeling that great, and I'm like, well, maybe I'm just taking a little bit longer to heal than other people who have had the same surgery. So that was kind of like what we were thinking and kind of hoping was going on. So a month goes by, I have like my follow-up or whatever with my OB, and I'm basically telling her that I'm still in a lot of pain and I haven't really noticed much of a difference. And she's like, that's kind of strange, like you should be feeling better at this point. That's when I got really, really nervous. And she was like, okay, we should probably send you to a specialist. So basically in Michigan, well, I don't know if it's statewide, but one of the most well-known sort of places for medical things is U of M. And basically she was like, I recommend that you go to U of M and kind of go to their chronic OB sort of section. I think that was what it was called. They have like a bunch of different like departments and things, lots of different specialties, which is another thing that makes them popular. And I'm gonna be honest, we weren't like super keen about going there. We have gone to U of M probably three-ish years ago, something like that, for the same reason, like we weren't really finding anything, so we just wanted to sort of get another opinion. However, they didn't really do anything for us the first time. Like I don't even remember. I feel like they gave me like a very general diagnosis. I think it was probably like IBS or something. I think I've been diagnosed with that a few times, but they didn't really do much for us. And another thing is, we didn't even know that U of M had that sort of specialty, and we're kind of confused as to why they didn't send us there 3 years ago. We weren't too keen about going there, but we were like, whatever it takes, we guess. We get in contact with them, and it takes a minute to sort of get a hold of them. Like I said, they're super popular and everything. Once we finally got to schedule an appointment, it wasn't until like January 9th. And at this point, let me remind you that it's August. So that wasn't exactly what we were going for. So we're like, January 9th is not ideal. And that's like just to be seen. It wasn't even to do anything at that point. We didn't really know what was going on. At that point, we just kind of left it. We couldn't really do anything about it. I don't know how how we even came to this discussion, I guess. But essentially my cousin, she sees an OB down in Indiana, and he's like a specialist, like an endometriosis specialist, I guess you would call it. So we got referred by her to go there. So it took a little bit to sort of get in contact with them. Obviously they don't know us, we don't know them. And then we were finally able to schedule our first appointment, which was an online appointment, thank goodness. But I think that was like November, no, not November. It was like October 17th, 18th, somewhere in there. So I was like, cool, because at this point I think it was like mid-September. So at that appointment is when we kind of started to switch gears a little bit. I basically gave him the rundown of everything, like my whole history and everything, how this started my senior year back in 2018, how they found I had endometriosis and they removed it. And at that point he's like, well, how did they remove it? And I couldn't remember what it was called at the time. I told him they like mentioned something about like burning it, which is apparently what family OBs usually do. And that's when he sort of stopped me. He was like, well, first of all, he's like, let's make sure that this is actually, wow, sorry, I look scary right now. But he was like, first of all, let's make sure that that's actually what happened, because like I said, I couldn't recall at the moment. And he wanted sort of like a doctor's note, like a medical report thing, kind of saying exactly what she did to remove it back in July. And he was like, if that was the case, which it was, she didn't remove it properly. He said basically there is a better way to do it. You can actually remove it with something called, I think it was like a Da Vinci machine or something. You can actually use that to remove the endometriosis. It doesn't get rid of it for good, but it does better than if you were to just cauterize it, which is burning it, which is what she did. He said actually when you cauterize it, it comes back with vengeance, is what he said. So I was like, well, that explains a lot. So at this point, I'm feeling like we wasted our time, which is kind of what we did, but I mean, it all happened for a reason, I guess. My skin is not looking good. When you are recovering from surgery, skincare is like the first thing to go out the window. So yeah, from there, he was like, okay, he's like, I know it'd be ideal for us to just do the surgery once or the procedure once, get rid of the endo and call it a day. But at this point, like I said, it was like mid-October, so I was like in the middle of my first semester. It wasn't a good time because recovery is like 3 to 4 weeks, somewhere in there. So he was like, what we're gonna do is we're going to do a laparoscopy, which is basically what they have to do. They just make small incisions to go in rather than like a big one. So he was like, let's schedule one of those. Let's look at what we're dealing with first, so sort of like a diagnostic sort of procedure, and then we'll actually plan like the real deal surgery either over some break or whenever time you can. So we ended up scheduling that. I think it was November 17th or 18th, so it was literally just like a month away for the diagnostic one. And at that point in time, I had Fridays off of school, so I just came home that Thursday night before in the middle of a snowstorm, as one does when you have to go somewhere, and I drove back home, and then we had that. I didn't go to school that following week because I think my body did not like being messed with. Like he kind of like took a look around and sort of figured out what we had going on, and basically, yes, he did confirm I still had endometriosis. I actually had a really big spot on my left side. It was like the size of a quarter. I had it all over. He was like, yep, you got it. And I'm like, cool, I already knew that, but let's get it removed. So I really wanted to get it removed, and in an ideal situation, I would have had it removed over Christmas break, because we had like a 3-week window, and if I came to school like a week late in the semester or something like that, like it wouldn't be a big deal. So a couple weeks after that first laparoscopy, I had like the follow-up with my doctor, and he basically confirmed everything. He went into like a lot of detail of like what he actually saw, and a lot of it I do not remember. He was like, okay, so I'm gonna put you on this medication because we don't know when we're going to be able to do your surgery yet. And basically it's going to suppress your symptoms. However, it also could encourage the endometriosis to keep growing. Like it's not going to do anything to restrict that from getting out of hand, essentially. And I also remember in the conversation, he kind of, I wouldn't say that he like subtly just sort of mentioned this, but I remember it not being like, he didn't make a big deal out of it. If you don't like girl talk, skip ahead a little bit, but basically he was saying, and it's also kind of a miracle that your left fallopian tube didn't get destroyed. And I was like, wait, what? I'm like, I'm not the smartest person, but I know that that doesn't sound good. So I sort of asked him, I'm like, that's a concern isn't it? And he was like, oh, yeah. He's like, honestly, it's a miracle that nothing happened to it. I don't know if he didn't say these exact words, but there are very few people where the endometriosis actually gets really close to actually damaging the tubes. At this point, it was a little late, so he was like, let's plan on getting the surgery in May after the second semester ends. That way you don't have to deal with school or anything like that, because this isn't something you're going to want to do like over spring break. Like, it's going to take a few weeks for you to recover. And I was like, okay, fine. And it wasn't really sitting with me well. Like, it's such a weird experience when you know what's going on in your body and you know that it can be fixed somewhat pretty easily, but you can't get it fixed, and then you just kind of sit there like, is something gonna happen? So the call was a virtual call, and I remember I came out of my room and I was just like a mess. I was like, we need to get this surgery sooner, because this is killing me. Like, him saying that he has no control over it, which isn't his fault. He is such a good doctor. I really, really liked my experience with him, but I was like, he's saying that something could happen, and that is a little bit frightening. So I'm like, we need to figure out how to get this surgery a little bit sooner. I don't know how we're gonna do it, because Christmas break is all booked up. Like, there's no way that we could do it. So this is where you pray and you hope for the best. So basically, we called them and we were like, hey, we want to get this done as soon as possible. Just like, give us a date and we'll try to make it work. And that was what we were planning on. We were like, we'll see what we can get and then we'll adapt, because this needs to be done like as soon as possible. So we called them and they were like, okay, the soonest we can get you in is January 23rd. Yeah, at this point it was probably like early to mid-December, so I was sort of finishing up school and everything. I had a few appointments and things and calls and things that I needed to stay on top of for that. And they were like, okay, January 23rd. And I was like, okay. So it kind of fell in a pretty good spot actually, because the semester started January 9th, I think that was like a Monday. And it was actually nice because I was able to sort of get acquainted with my classes for a couple weeks and just sort of get in the groove of things. If I had to be gone for the first couple weeks where like things are like just getting started and everything, it wouldn't be a big deal, but honestly it wasn't ideal, because I feel like I would be completely lost and just like miss everything. So that's when things kind of got a little bit stressful. I talked about this just a little bit on Instagram, just because, like I said, I mostly do like home stuff and things. I don't talk about like a lot of personal things, but like stuff like that that's stressing me out, I want to like share with you guys to sort of give my insight on it in case you're dealing with something like it, or you will deal with something like it. Like it's just kind of like a more you know thing. But basically with that, I had to try to figure out my schedule, because I am in school for studio art, which means that, well, one studio is 2 3-hour sessions a week, so 6 hours a week, and I had 2 of those. I basically had to email a bunch of professors and ask them. Some of them said they couldn't accommodate. There were a couple that said they couldn't. It was just kind of crazy trying to find people that were going to accommodate. The thing that was just like super frustrating was some professors and things were saying that they couldn't accommodate. However, my mom and I, we were doing like so much research. There's like a student like disabilities thing that kind of says that you have to accommodate to students, especially for something that's like short term. Like this isn't like a long ongoing thing, thankfully. Basically, we called them and they were like, well, they're like, yes, that's there, but technically all we can do is send them a letter, and then from there they can choose whether they accommodate to you or not. Like, we can't tell them what to do. And I was like, well, that's pointless. In the background I can hear my mom like under her breath, she's like, that's stupid. And I'm like, yeah, kinda. I had to be an advocate for myself and just try to find other classes. Long story short, I ended up finalizing my classes the Wednesday before the Monday that classes started. Needless to say, I was cutting it really close, and I ended up having to sign up for a French class as well as an accelerated sort of like textiles class, and I was just really stressed because the French class, it's actually going pretty good, all things considered, but it's like 4 credits. And if you're not familiar with like college classes, normal ones are 3 credits, this one is 4, so it's just a lot more work. And then the accelerated course, because it's 8 weeks instead of 16, you're doing 2 weeks worth of work every single week. So I was like, whatever, this just has to be what it's gonna be. And it's actually going pretty good so far. But that is why I was stressed that whole entire just like week and a half or so of like my Christmas break. I was just like, oh my gosh, like I just want to figure this out and get the surgery done and let's just move on, okay? So did that, did a couple weeks of school, kind of got acquainted with everything. And then after a couple of weeks, I came home and we did the surgery on the 23rd. This is where, well, honestly, I feel like the whole entire story is a miracle story, but this is like real deal. Like, this was a miracle I was not expecting. I go in for the surgery, I get it done. It was probably around 8:30, 8:45-ish. It was supposed to be like 9, but they were running ahead of schedule. And after surgery, he basically gave my parents the rundown of everything he found. He said he wasn't gonna talk to me because I wasn't gonna remember any of it, which fair enough. But he basically was like, well, first of all, I found a lot more endometriosis than I initially saw in that first laparoscopy back in November. That one I wasn't too shocked about. The first other crazy thing that he found, well, he said the endometriosis was actually built up so much that it was pushing my intestines to one side of my body, therefore not allowing them to actually function. That's crazy, and that explains so much. That was one thing. So for this surgery that I had, which at this point is almost 2 weeks ago, I not only got all the endometriosis removed, I also got like my intestines like reconfigured, which is absolutely wild. I honestly did not expect that at all. The other crazy thing that he said was that all the spots that I had endometriosis were actually a bit smaller than they were before, which is also crazy because if you remember just a little bit ago, there was a chance that that medication that he gave me could actually make it worse. It could actually make it grow, and actually made it shrink, which is crazy, especially given the fact that I almost got like permanent damage from it. It didn't grow. It stayed put, and he said he doesn't see that very often. He said he has seen some cases, but because it's not true for everyone, they can't advertise that it could possibly shrink the endometriosis because it's not a guarantee. I am so glad that he told me that because I got the surgery done earlier, which is good. But yeah, so looking back on it, miracles and miracles. But yeah, so it is 2 weeks after the surgery, but so far so good on the whole recovery process. I will say the recovery is a bit harder than I was anticipating. Honestly, I don't know what I was anticipating. I feel like I was just really trying not to think about surgery because I knew something bad could happen. You could find something bad, you know? So I didn't really think about what recovery was going to look like for me. The first day was easily the hardest. It was like an outpatient thing, so I was released from the actual like hospital or whatever the same day. But I was there like an extra hour or two because I felt so sick and they wanted to get it under control, especially since we had to drive a couple hours to get home. But after that first day, the nauseousness and everything, or the nausea, for the most part went away. After that, I mostly just kind of felt like sore and sick. Like the soreness goes away within 2 to 3 days of the surgery. It kind of just feels like you did like a bunch of crunches or something, and your abs are just like on fire. So I was really sore for the first few days, but it wasn't too bad. I actually was able to get up this time. I say this time because when I got my gallbladder out, I remember distinctly one night Chloe having to help me lay down because I couldn't like physically like activate and use my abs. So that wasn't as much of a problem this time around, which I was pretty happy about. I could move around for the most part by myself. Given that we are about 2 weeks after the surgery right now, I'm actually feeling pretty good today, which is really nice. All the other days I've just been sort of feeling a little bit better, and then every once in a while I'll have like a bad day and stuff where I'm just not feeling good. And when I'm saying like have a bad day and like not feeling good, I don't know how to describe it. My parents keep asking me to describe it and I can't really describe it besides it's not the pain that I had beforehand, which is good, but it almost feels like a combination of soreness as well as like that sort of like achy, sick feeling, if that makes sense. And also my stomach is also like pretty sensitive still, like to the touch. Like I still have to be careful on things with those incisions and things, but those are still a little bit sore. There's actually one part of my stomach that's like 50% numb, and it's so funny. It just feels, it's the strangest thing. There's that, but all things considered, we're just really hoping, we're really praying that every single day it's just gonna keep getting better and better, and then it's just gonna be gone. Of course, like I said, there isn't a way to fully get rid of endometriosis. There isn't. That's just how the body works. But essentially, this surgery is supposed to be able to sort of make my problems a lot less, hopefully at least over the next 2 to 3 years. Like it's supposed to leave me in pretty good shape for a while. So that's where I'm at. This video is getting kind of long, so I'll answer just a few questions. So I'll just pick out like 2 or 3 to answer quick because I won't leave you guys here forever. Alrighty, first one. What's the worst pickup line you've ever heard? Very random, but probably the one with the Tennessee, like, are you from Tennessee because you're the only 10 I see. That one's kind of dumb. The other one, I think it's like a biblical one. I was reading the book of Numbers and I didn't find yours. Yeah, there are a lot of really bad ones out there. Next one is, how tall are you? I am very tall. I'd be curious in the comments below, do you feel like I look tall or do I not? Because I am actually very tall. Not as tall as I believe Chloe and Tori are both taller than I am, but I'm like in between like 5'7", 5'8". You'd think after I've been to the doctor so many times I'd know my height, but they don't really take my height. Usually for like procedures and things, they just like ask you how tall you are. They don't like actually measure. So yeah, 5'7", 5'8", it feels too tall, but I'm curious if I actually look tall in videos because most of the time I'm just like sitting down. We come from very tall families on both sides, so I kind of had to be tall. There wasn't really any other option. Last one. The longest time you've gone without showering. That's random, but it would have to be, it was probably my senior year. I haven't done this recently, I promise. It was my senior year, so it was like 4 years ago. On top of like my chronic pain and everything, I had actually an infection. That was maybe one of the most like painful times, probably the most painful times in my life. It was so painful. So let's just say I couldn't stand up, let alone shower. So probably like 5 days, which is insane. But I stayed home from school that whole entire week and the infection went away. I had like a medication for it and everything. We're all good. Fun story, fun times. Anyway, I'm gonna stop chatting your ear off. Thank you for joining me for today's video. I hope you enjoyed just getting a little bit of an update, and hopefully from now on my updates will be a little bit more boring and they're not gonna be like, hey, I had surgery twice since the last time I saw you, sort of thing. So yeah, and if you have any questions or comments or anything, leave them down below. I'm an open book. I will try to get to you and everything, but make sure you give the video a thumbs up and you subscribe if you're looking for some more home content and everything. If you haven't seen last week's video, which was like a neutral living room decorate with me, highly recommend. Although I'm biased, I'll have it linked down below, and it's just a really fun, casual, cozy video. So I'm gonna stop chatting your ear off now. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day so far, and I cannot wait to see you guys in my next video. Bye!